I'm a risk taker. I like to take risks. I, no, I like not going. I like going on stage and not knowing what I'm gonna do, because I've experienced like being in a play where there's a script and you know exactly what's gonna happen, and it kind of gets boring after a little bit.
The advertising industry as a whole, it's a fantastic creative industry to be in. I think what draws me personally is the people, the individuality, and the creativity that comes from so many different areas of life, so many walks of life.
It probably, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have one human being sitting in judgment over another. You know, that's God's role, not ours. But we don't have a perfect world, and our system is such that we have someone must be a judge. And while I knew that I was not perfect and I would make mistakes somewhere along the line, I always felt I was probably better than a lot of other people. And so I was willing to go ahead and do it. And I did, and it was very interesting.
You're looking at purchasing behaviors online and how people purchase and how they get to that point of purchase from the initial consumption of the content.
I like to people watch a lot, and I like to see how a big group interacts, because like one person will say something funny and then everyone will go, ah ha 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 ha, and then it'll be just like a back and forth between like the dynamics of people, and I think that's really interesting.
You don't sentence somebody who just comes in, pleads guilty, and you sentence him straight away. You have a probation report, and they come in and they give you a lengthy report. They talk about his home life, his educational life, what he's done for a living, previous crimes he's committed, good things or bad things he's done. People can come in and testify for him or against him at sentencing. So you ultimately have to make a lot of decisions about the person's character, and it plays a very important role. And you do that a lot, and you hope you're right.
A big responsibility for any firm comes with influencing the public, because what we're doing now is we're shaping culture, coming up with products and services that have never been done before.
It was fascinating. You are in the situation where every day there are people dealing with what may well be the most important phenomenon of their life.
So the responsibility lies with research, insights, ethics, needs, as well as the commercial gain for the marketer that wants you to go to market with their product.
And you're not only involved in it, you're organizing how it proceeds, how it plays out, and then how it ends. You're in charge of that. You know, it's a very, sadly enough, it's like you're playing God in this smaller situation, and it is pressure-packed, but it is incredibly interesting. It always was, every bit of it.
Everyone has a responsibility in life and in the workplace and in the product development to make sure that we're all contributing positively to the world in which we live in.
As I said, there were people, very bright lawyers, you know, adult men, women, who got in there and couldn't do it.
There are a lot of people who don't necessarily who can't go on stage and can't perform to an audience. That's not even in their mindset, and they think, how do they do that? And
we'd talk, and they'd say, I just can't do it. I can't sit in there and make these decisions impacting other people's lives.
And so I think it's more of a bewilderment and an amazement if it's a good match. If it's a bad match, then people are like, oh, I could do a little bit better than that, I guess.
No, it's fun because you go from nothing to something usually.
I notice in audiences a lot, they like to give really hard suggestions. If they'll be like, can we get a location? A lot of the people will be like, Nicaragua, Fiji, the Antarctica, to see us fail. But it's when we triumph that an audience is really impressed. We take that Nicaragua and we do something amazing with it. That's when they go, oh, I like this. This is funny.
But you go from nothing to something, and then that something becomes part of everyday life. And people use it, need it, talk about it, and sometimes are defined by it.
I would see people sometimes who did a foolish thing. A young person, generally men, young man, would have done something wrong and caused great harm and charged with a very serious crime. And I would think back to when I was about that age, when I did some foolish or thoughtless things, but didn't harm anybody. Some instances where I could have. And I would think to myself, wow, I could be in that situation. And one time when I was about 18, I threw a rock off a cliff in Catalina. There was a boat down below about 200 feet. And the rock went over that boat. It was a big rock, the size of a football. And if it had hit that boat, it would have sunk it. And if it hit anybody, it would have killed them. And I thought to myself, wow, I was that close to doing something that other people might have looked at and said, what a horrific crime. And I knew I didn't mean to do any crime. It was bad judgment, not criminal intent. And I would see people come before me, and I would think to myself, in some situations, this is a similar situation. This person did a foolish, thoughtless thing. They're not evil.
And I think what's interesting about the managerial role is that it goes a bit like this. You know, you can be successful and you can fail and you can fall down and you have to pick yourself up and you have to dust yourself off and you keep going and you keep going and keep going. And for me and my colleagues and my peers, I feel the best leaders are the ones that have failed to know what it's like to, you know, turn and twist and come out better at the other end.
At least me personally, I try my hardest to like not make it seem like I'm trying to make everyone laugh. Because when someone goes on stage and they're like, whoa, look at me, I'm doing funny things, no one thinks it's funny. So it's just sort of like being natural and connecting with the audience on like an intellectual level almost. Like saying like, you're smart enough to know that you're in the audience, I'm on stage, and we have this like back and forth of like, I say something, if you like it, you laugh. If you don't, then that's okay, I'll try again.